The hunt for the playoffs begins here. 17 races brings us to this point where 10 drivers tonight begin their chase for a championship. We're from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. We welcome you to coverage of the first race of the 4-wide. So happy to have you along for the coverage. We're in the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and this is going to be a very intriguing one just because this is the first race of the playoffs. We took them all, the 10. We decided the 10 at the Daytona International Speedway 2 weeks ago. And after the Thanksgiving break, these drivers are ready to get back to racing, back to intensity, and of course back to contention when it comes to a 4-wide racing ARCA Series Championship in its inaugural season. This is not the first time we see Bristol on the schedule, but it's the first time we see it on the schedule in this kind of intensity bound, this kind of intensity method, as we should say, in terms of drivers going for the championship. And it's all going to begin here with those 10 drivers. And it's going to be a lot of fun when we get to the final races of the season. They're going to know that it's going to be pivotal when they start here tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. But going into this race, it definitely is going to pose a lot of challenges. Of course, these drivers have been here before, but it is, of course, with the different setting. There's going to be a shorter field, I believe, here tonight than we saw last time we visited this greatest half mile, the last great Coliseum. So it is going to be a completely different outlook, but nonetheless, these drivers are going to be looking for all that they can and potentially get themselves a race victory. And speaking of race victories, 2 weeks ago, we had the chance to see a first-time winner in Cody Ivey at the Daytona International Speedway not too long ago for the regular season finale. Ivey was not able to get into an interview with us on that race, so I figured it would be our time to kind of recover that and talk to Cody Ivey, the winner from last week over at the Daytona International Speedway. We'll get a word with the driver of the 81 and see exactly how he feels going into the championship and going into the final races of this season, where he's not going to be a competitor, but he's going to have that race win to his account. He's going to have that race win in there. We'll bring in Cody Ivey to the broadcast booth. And Cody, I know we didn't expect to see what was going to happen at Daytona, and of course we wanted to talk to you last week. Unfortunately, you weren't able to, but we got you in the booth now. How did it feel 2 weeks ago coming off that final corner when it was you, AJ Green, Kyle Benson going all the way to the finish?
Yeah, it's
Oh, Cody, do you have a copy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, well, I got you.
Yeah, so yeah, it's coming off turn 4 at Daytona. It was, I know that prior to that I had to go to the back because of a wreck issue, and I knew that you know, I had already used my one repair, but I just did everything that I could to try to get up there, and some spots opened up, and I found myself right in front of and behind those wrecks, so everything worked out well for me.
And it worked out well for you all the way at the end, but it came after a lot of decisions from race control. It came after a sort of a controversial finish, because at first you came across the start finish line, you were the unofficial winner, then race control decided, hey, it went to AJ Green based on a double yellow line rule, but then after further review, they gave you back the win. So walk us through sort of that emotional roller coaster, because I know AJ Green on the other side kind of felt the same, where on your case, you got decided as a winner, then you got to take it away, and then you got it back.
Yeah, I was ready to do my burnout. I was pretty excited, and then it was just kind of, it let the air out of my balloon, you know, when it disqualified me. But I'm glad that the race council decided to go with the way they went. I mean, with the rule book. And I'm glad it worked. Again, I'm glad it worked out how it did, and I appreciate Murray and them taking time to look at it.
Well, you can officially call yourself a 4-wide racing ARCA Series winner and a 4-wide winner overall. So, Cody, we want to give you our congratulations on behalf of the KBueno Racing Network. But we know there's work to do on the Bristol Motor Speedway tonight, so we'll set you off on the grid. We wish you the best of luck for this race.
Yeah, guys, appreciate it. Enjoy the race.
That is Cody Ivey, the winner at Daytona 2 weeks ago, and he'll be looking for some sort of that taste of victory when it comes to tonight's race. So as drivers end up on the grid so far for tonight's event, we'll take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will start tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. It'll be the driver of the 88 machine, Brandon T. Banks, on pole for the first time here tonight. 14.888 will lead him first to the green flag, along with Stock Motorsports' AJ Green to his outside, trying to look for some redemption after the ARCA loss at Daytona 2 weeks ago. Kyle Benson in the 10 comes into this race with 3 wins on the season, and in playoff eligibility, he'll start tonight from third with Joe Sanchez, fellow driver, out to his outside in P number 4. Colin Forrester in the 99 will start 5th. Charlie Hartcomb with a win this season, he'll start in P6. Lawson Peel, Tyler Murray will work the drivers back to row 4. Christopher Bishop, Craig Lownslugger all the way back to 10th in row 5. Ken MacArthur, Curtis Kelly will be back to row number 6 and P12, before you'll find all the rest of the drivers that did not qualify and did not put a time on the board. Eric Schaefer, Tony Kibbett, Michael Newbraw, Jason Hastings, Pete Bruni, and of course Cody Ivey, who will round out the rear of the field, him trying to get 2 in a row here tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at your playoff grid going into this race. Again, 10 drivers decided 2 weeks ago at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Kyle Benson with 3 wins. Of course, they all get reset along with the other drivers that picked up wins this season. Joe Sanchez +6. It'll be +2 for Lownslugger, Hartcomb, and Ken MacArthur. That rounds out the drivers currently in the Championship 5 going into this opening race. And then it's Curtis Kelly, Eric Schaefer, Tony Kibbett, Brandon Banks, Michael Newbraw, the drivers a handful of points behind, and it is a very small margin. So we'll probably expect to see a lot of drivers bounce in and out of the playoff bubble. It's going to be a lot of fun as the pace car comes down to the entrance of pit road. Brandon Banks, AJ Green, 88-48 to the green flag from Bristol. And already first caution of the evening comes out here tonight, and it is Tyler Murray. It appears to be in the 8 machine, who started up and near the front of the field, but unfortunately gets caught up in it. He is last right now on the driver standings, and we'll try to see exactly what went down here. And when it came to the incident, that it seemed to involve maybe 1-2 drivers, but not that many when it came down to it. We'll see exactly what happened with replay, and we'll see exactly whether that translated into anything here. We'll take a look, and it seemed it was the 8 machine of Tyler Murray. Seems that he just got turned around there, or just pretty much lost it all by himself. You'll see here underneath the 46, that's Charlie Hartcomb. Car steps out, almost contact there with the 46. Nice job of him and everybody else to get around him and to avoid that. But for Tyler Murray there, his car just steps out. And that's something that's been a staple of these ARCA cars as you're right on board. This is coming off, fresh off the opening jump, going into turn 1 and 2. But these cars do not have a lot of downforce. So it has a lot of power, but not that much downforce when it comes down to it. But when you put a car down there and you really dive it in, much like Murray did right about here, that's where you'll see it. And then he goes around, he goes for a spin, and we end up with our first caution on tonight's race. It's definitely been a different one so far here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, and this is something that we expect a lot of yellows to come out nonetheless, but unfortunately we end up with one of our caution flags to come out, as Brandon Banks will lead the field, and you'll see those colors on the bumper, or rather on the splitter and the spoiler, that does indicate playoff eligible drivers. And so that's exactly what you're seeing between Banks, Benson, and a lot of the others. Will come over that over the course of the night, as they'll wait for the iRacing official pace car. I believe there was probably a little bit of a mishap there, trying to find where the pace car is. But nonetheless, they will come to a complete stop. They're waiting for the iRacing official pace car. There it is. So they'll catch up to it, and we'll have our first caution of lap 5 of what's going to be a 200 lap race, 200 laps scheduled here tonight from the last great Coliseum. And if you recall, the last time we visited this track, it resulted in a first-time 4-wide racing ARCA winner in Brian M. Smith. The last time we visited this track, same conditions. It was at the nighttime conditions, and we had a lot of drivers vying for positions, vying for the win, but it was Brian M. Smith who was able to take it away on the ARCA side. Dean Brumman was able to walk away with it on the Cup Series side, and it's definitely great to see that. I mean, it's been on there ever since the start of the season. Drivers definitely having a feel for this track more than they would anything else and any of the other venues that we'll see over the course of the playoff schedule and everything to follow as well. So we'll be under this caution flag for the first time here tonight. Everyone's gonna most likely stay themselves steady. Not many drivers going down pit road. Unfortunately, it looks like Cody Ivy may have had some connection issues, so he's already a couple laps down. Or maybe he just decided that he could not be able to continue, and he's going to follow through. He's going to be a couple laps down. Hopefully, we do end up seeing that 81 machine return to the racetrack. Again, he is vying for 2 in a row here in the 4Wide Racing ARCA Series after his win over at Daytona. So we'll, for the moment, stay under yellow flag conditions. Lights are still on in the iRacing official pace car, so they'll wait one more time before we end up going green. And Brandon Banks will lead them, so awfully quick here that we see a yellow flag, and sort of interesting that it's a little bit lasted this long here from Bristol, but we're ready to see the field double up here, get ready back for green flag action, and it appears that Brandon Banks is looking for the outside lane, so the 88 Geico machine will be there up at the top. We'll see if he can get a good start off of that top lane. That'll be the first time that he ends up on there as well. So for the playoff situation, the driver of this 88 machine, Brandon Banks, he has not won a race this season, but he was eligible through points, and he is currently sitting outside of the top 5. He's in 9th, but only 5 points behind. But that'll all be erased if he can get a win tonight, much like every other single playoff driver. Remember, this is win and you're in, win and advance. So if you do get a checkered flag to your name, whether it's in the regular season or in the playoffs, you're going to advance in some shape or form. In the regular season, drivers who won, they're eligible for the playoffs. Drivers who win in the playoffs will be eligible for the championship 5 in a couple of weeks' time. So whichever orange bannered car can get their way to victory lane here from Bristol, they'll be able to call themselves eligible for the championship. Pace car is down. Green flag back in the air. It's Brandon Banks up at the front. He gets a nice jump over the 48 of AJ Green. 55 of Joe Sanchez trying to make a move here outside for the corner. 3 and 4, 55 not going to be able to make the move. Now here comes Green, bottom side, turn 1. For the first time tonight, we may see a lead change after our first caution. The 48 gets a little bit loose. But for the moment, that 48 holding down on that sort of apron bottom line. Banks is going to hold through up top. Now Sanchez works to the inside. That is going to be for third. Get ahead of Kyle Benson, competitor. Now Brandon Banks pulls out the race lead. So new race leader for the moment. Lap 15 goes to Stock Motorsports' AJ Green. To a good start there. He made the pass complete, and now Brandon Banks is seemingly falling back through the clutches of the field because Sanchez is able to get by. Same deal mostly for Kyle Benson. There's Charlie Harcum, fellow playoff driver, to the inside. And Banks has started on the pole already on the free fall here through the top 10 as Benson's going to be able to clear Harcum. Harcum able to step into the top 4 for the first time tonight. And Kyle Benson is now back into third. So that moves 2 playoff drivers within the top 3. AJ Green sort of the spoiler here. Remember, he didn't get the win at Daytona 2 weeks ago, rather, in the final regular season race. That could have potentially put him in playoff eligibility. But since he did not get that win, since he did not get through the top 10 in points, AJ Green is going to be a non-playoff driver from here on throughout. He's got the Hanukkah colors tonight, as Hanukkah did start not too long ago. He's currently leading the field as of the first 20 laps. There's Sanchez now, single file. Charlie Harcum, they've all sort of kept themselves together. And Brandon Banks now back under the clutches. More drivers trying to take positions away. That's the 99 of Colin Forster, who's right on board with the 88 machine. There's rookie Lawson Peel in the 12. Craig Lounslugger behind them in the 13 machine. Hopefully some separation here between some of these guys, but Colin Forster holding the bottom, everybody else running the top for now. And one thing to also note here from the Bristol Motor Speedway is that we have a shorter field tonight compared to the other Bristol races that we had, or in fact the last Bristol race that we held here in the 4Wide Racing ARCA campaign. We did have a lot more than about 25 drivers in that race from the last Great Coliseum when we visited this track, but this time around only 17 drivers in the playoff running for this race tonight. So of course a smaller field could result maybe in some more green flag stretches, but that also plays to some more separation between the drivers in the front, drivers in the rear, all over the place. You'll take a look here on board with 55 of Joe Sanchez. He's a multi-time winner here this season. Won 3 races. He's tied Kyle Benson for the most amount of wins by any individual driver in a campaign. And Sanchez in the housing belt machine is urging to go back to victory lane. It's been a while since he's taken a checkered flag from everybody else. To get it here in the playoffs could mean a lot. Sanchez going into this race is of course second in the playoff standings. He's only 6 points ahead of that cutoff. It's still a tight margin because the wins get reset, but Sanchez could look to build on this, and especially with the fact that there's a non-playoff driver at the front of the field, it could help Sanchez's case of holding through as he tries to defend against fellow playoff competitor and fellow multi-time winner Kyle Benson. There he is, the number what's supposed to be 62, the Ricky Bobby machine, but it's the big fast racing machine here tonight for Benson. And Benson, much like many others, rolling that high side, trying to diamond the corner, get off of the 26 to 30 degrees of banking that you'll find here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. So no movement so far, other than the movement from Banks between the top 5. But ever since Banks has moved back into 5th, it seems like there hasn't been many changes. This is a change just behind the top 5. That's Lawson Peel outside Colin Forster. That was a move for P6 on the racetrack. There's a lap car down there, the 49. That's Jason Hastings. He got out of the way of the leaders and also away from these lead lap cars. So everybody going to continue to stay, for the most part, single file. And not too many movements between drivers throughout the field as for the moment. So it's been rather calm after the first yellow with a harmless spin from Tyler Murray. And ever since then, we've been pretty much green flag racing ever since then. If you're wondering where Murray is, after that spin on lap 1, he went from the rear of the field back to 11th on the racetrack. So it's been a positive here for the driver of the 8 machine. He's right on board. He's kind of in a tight back there. And so he'll go 3 wide casually. Jason Hastings on the bottom. That was Christopher Bishop for position on the top. So Murray's going to advance 1. And after starting 8th, after having that spin on the opening lap, the league owner Tyler Murray now up to 11th and in potentiality to catch some more drivers here. That's Cody Ivey in the Menards machine underneath Curtis Kelly. That's for what is going to be, I believe, 10th. And I'd actually know Kelly and Ivy are both laps down. Kelly is on the verge of getting put a lap down here. But nonetheless, the 8 machine going to go by here. He'll work to the inside. And for the moment, Murray trying to just pick up from where he lost on that opening lap. So after the first 35, not too much happening here throughout the field. And that's something that we expect as Kyle Benson slightly tags the wall. He's going to lose some time to the leader. I'm going to catch in here. Charlie Harcum to the inside. He'll take a look on board here with that Chevrolet. The driver that won earlier this season at the Rockingham Speedway for the first time in his career. But one thing I noticed here about Bristol, of course, when drivers go single file, is just everybody wanting to stay to the top, as Charlie Harcum will make the top work here for the pass for second. On lap number 36 to 46, to be able to make it happen. They do lose some time, though, to the likes of Banks and others. But for the moment, at 46, up to the top position, or the highest position he's been in all night in P3. But as you see drivers in single file positions, you're going to see everybody just continuing to roll this top side. And that's something that did happen earlier in the campaign here from Bristol Motor Speedway. You saw a lot of drivers stay up near that safer barrier. They didn't want to go too low on the racetrack because they felt that the momentum was not going to be carried enough off the exit of the corner. And especially with the variability of degrees here in the banking from Bristol, we're expected to see a lot of drivers roll off the 30 degrees of banking instead of trying to stay down to where it is 26 degrees. So that's for the moment. A lot of drivers really want to stay on that momentum train, and that outside line really does help in the case of trying to work for the exits of every single corner. The problem that does rely on that outside lane, and it's something that's happened between many drivers in this series and abroad, is just how loose you can get burning off the rear tires up at the top of the track, because you don't necessarily need to use as much brakes as you would with a car that, let's say, would have more power, much like the NASCAR Cup Series machines, the Gen 6 cars. You have to use a lot of brakes in those cars, and heavy other stock cars, you do have to use the brakes to get around these corners. But with these cars not having as much power underneath the hood, it can just kind of coast through the corner for the most part, roll it up to the top, and then be able to diamond it all the way back to the bottom, get the maximum exit off the corner like you saw Brandon Banks just do right there to get on the inside of fellow playoff competitor Kyle Benson. But as they continue to run the top, the rear tires are just going to start to continue to shred. So you're going to see sort of that loose effect for many of the competitors here tonight. When they get off of that corner, those cars are going to be really kicking out the rear ends, and they'll be lucky not to get in the spin, as Banks tried to make the advancement there on Benson, but took 2 steps back, ends up on the back foot here behind Colin Forster. Now here comes Lawson Peel, rookie, gonna make the move there, but Peel did not have the space nor the momentum, couldn't carry it through, lost all that speed. He's back to the inside, and he'll fall back just where he was in P6. And while AJ Green continues to man the field, he is approaching a lot of lap traffic in this case. That was Curtis Kelly, the Shrek machine that he just gone by. Kelly, a playoff runner this season. Now going to catch up once again to the 49 of Jason Hastings. So lap traffic may play a huge factor into this race. There's not as many cars in the field, so it's not going to be the biggest problem, but there's going to be something in the way of the race leader beyond for this entire race, especially if it stays green. We should expect drivers to get through a lot of lap traffic, and if AJ Green is fast enough, he could start lapping a bunch of the lead lap cars for the moment, so he could start to catch in the top 10, top 15 very closely and very soon. It's just all about whether he can keep this pace up. That last time by was just a little bit slower than the likes of Charlie Harcum and Joe Sanchez. It was about a couple of hundredths between those 3 drivers. And for Harcum, he sets the fastest lap that last time by out of the top 3. So Harcum definitely catching a lot of pace here within lap 50, or what's coming up to lap 50 of 200. Going to be our first quarter of the race complete. And most of it, remarkably, under green flag circumstances. So good to see that we're getting a lot of green flag runs in here. And one thing that you'll also take into account is that these drivers cannot make it on fuel. There's going to be a fuel run here, especially if we don't get yellows anytime soon. If we end up continuing on the green flag run, as you watch a battle here, that's Craig Launslager underneath Curtis Kelly, the lap car. Benson getting stuck on the top side. You're going to see a lot of drivers most likely come down pit road. They're going to have to pit at least once before this race is over. Remember, 75% fuel on these ARCA Menard Series cars, and same deal for the Cup Series that'll take place tomorrow night at Darlington. But with Bristol Motor Speedway, you can go a while on this short track without going down pit road. But it's going to be a big concern if it stays green for drivers to make green flag pit stops, and most importantly, to keep those cars clean and make sure they don't blend into the wrong traffic at the wrong time. There's been many deals at Bristol Motor Speedway where drivers have tried to merge back into traffic. They end up in a large pack of cars, and then it just becomes a mess coming off of the corner, or maybe in the middle of the corner, trying to join back to the racetrack. So we'll just have to keep an eye on whether the green flag pit stops do end up happening. But as it stands on lap 54, doesn't seem to be a valid concern at all. Eric Schaefer, one of the first drivers to hit pit road under green, but it looks like he is pulled to behind the garage. So unfortunately, the playoff driver, the 22, not going to be able to run the rest of this race. As it stands, he is currently 18 laps down, back in 16th. So it's been a rough race so far out of the driver, the 22, and as a playoff driver, that is not where you want to stand. Eric Schaefer, as you saw at the top of the show, he came into this race in 7th place in the point standings out of the 10. He was only 2 points on near that cutoff between himself, Curtis Kelly, and Ken MacArthur. So it was only a slight margin between those drivers going into tonight's race. And unfortunately for Schaefer, if he can't get back on the track, which I believe he has, then it's going to be tough for Schaefer to pick things back up for the rest of the remainder of the playoffs. And there's going to be a couple of other tracks that really throw these drivers into their rhythms, because this is the only short track that we see on the schedule in the playoffs. Of course, Bristol, a former track in the regular season, a couple of seasons ago, and of course in this campaign as well. But then next week we move to the Texas Oval. It'll be a 1.5 miler, and then we'll go to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. So in fact, it won't be the first short track. It'll be one of 2 short tracks, a almost forgot that it was not Nashville Super Speedway. It will be Nashville Fairgrounds. So indeed, 2 short tracks on the playoff schedule, and then we'll cap off the Championship 5 decider in that first round with Talladega Super Speedway, and then we'll go to Atlanta Motor Speedway to decide the champion. That will coincide with the Cup Series schedule that will follow through up to December 29th and just before the new year of 2022. So AJ Green continues to lead this race, and he has yet to look back ever since the drop of the green flag after the first caution. We'll take a short side-by-side break, but you won't miss a thing here on the KBueno Racing Network. Driving the 48, AJ Green leads lap 62 of 200.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Back live for coverage of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series and the first race of the playoffs from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Kenneth Bueno here in the broadcast booth from the Last Great Coliseum, and you continue to watch your race leader, AJ Green, continue to pound on the field. He is now 1.3 seconds over the next car in line, Colin Forrester, who has moved his way up to second. There have been only about one driver so far in the field that has hit pit road since this long green flag run. It is the 97 machine Ken MacArthur. There he is on the racetrack. And he continues to ride around, but AJ Green still putting up the rest of the field on notice here, as we should approach our first round of green flag pit stops. That is if we stay green. Of course, there has not been a yellow flag since the opening drop of the green on the first lap, where Tyler Murray went for a spin, and as soon as I say that, Lawson Peel gets turned into the inside wall. Commentators jinx alive and well here on lap number 79. Lawson Peel goes for a spin, tags the inside safer barrier, and there will be no concerns about fuel strategy from here on out. Drivers will be able to pit just 20 laps shy of the official halfway mark of tonight's race. We'll take a look at the replay, see exactly how that all began, and Lawson Peel, who was just trying to work his way through traffic, ends up in the worst place of it all. Take a look here as 12 goes underneath the 55. Can't quite get the run, but it's the 13 of Lounslugger, playoff driver, that gets into the 12. 12 is able to lock up the brakes and escape with minimal damage on his Budweiser Chevrolet. But he was not expecting that at all. Take another round at it. Here he comes inside. This is the move made here on Joe Sanchez, trying to get to the bottom. He'll lose the speed. And then bam, right there, a slight tap from the 13. Digs into the rear bumper. And Peel goes for that harmless spin. Just a bit harmless as he tags that inside safer barrier. And he'll be okay for the most part. But he will join a lot of drivers down pit road for the first time here tonight. I mentioned that we were on the cusp of a potential pit strategy call by many of the leaders to go green flag pit stops. And there go yellow flag pit stops here on lap 81 of 200. So AJ Green will take the route to the pit stall. He'll take his own. That's Colin Forster, Joe Sanchez, the first three in line. There'll be a couple drivers that do not pit. I believe Ken MacArthur is going to be one of them. Indeed, he is going to stay out among some of the lap cars. MacArthur is 3 laps down on the racetrack. And as for everybody else, we'll just have to see how they fare coming off the pit road. This is the singles lane, by the way, of Bristol Motor Speedway, so there are no dual pit roads. AJ Green going to come out first convincingly over Colin Forster and Craig Lounslugger, who puts himself into the top 3 for the first time tonight. But this is the single lane, the single route Bristol Motor Speedway pit road entrance. So you start from the other end of the racetrack, you get to that a handful of stalls that are there, the first couple of stalls that start from the pole sitter all the way on back, and you do not have dual entries here on pit road. Also to help that this field definitely isn't the largest in 4-wide ARCA Series history. It is a thinner field here tonight for the opening round of the playoffs, so that does mean that less stalls have to be used. And for a good half of the racetrack on pit road, those stalls are completely empty, do not have any pit boxes on them. The other half does, with the leaders and of course everybody else on the track. So AJ Green will come out first on pit road. Colin Forster able to move up to second in that green flag stretch, and he continues to stay in second out of pit lane. Craig Lounslugger, sort of the biggest mover here. He was just behind Lawson Peel before that incident, 2 positions behind playoff competitor Joe Sanchez. But the 13 gets the advantage here on pit road, so he'll take over 3rd while Sanchez has to move back to 4th. It's a nice rebound here from Brandon Banks after falling back through the field after the opening jump after the first yellow. The pole sitter in Banks going to have the 5th place running position, so that leaves pretty much all but one in the top 5 playoff eligible. Actually, all but 2 playoff eligible. Forster and Green, the 2 Stonk Motorsports teammates, are going to command us. Drivers that are not eligible for the championship in a couple of weeks' time. So it'll be 48 on the front row, 99 to his outside. Craig Lounslugger, Joe Sanchez, those are your first 2 playoff drivers in the running order on this restart here. We'll get it on lap 85 of 200. Still a long way to go from the last great Coliseum. It's AJ Green, though, quick to the jump as they head back to turn 1. Heard somebody tag the wall there, I believe to the outside, but we stay green as AJ Green goes for a half spin. He'll be able to save it though. Caution comes out. 48 goes around, and the 42 Bishop goes slamming in. And after our second caution of the night by a single car crash in Lawson Peel, we have a 2-car incident involving your leader, who got all sorts of sideways by himself at the entrance of the corner on cold tires. Take a look at how this all began, but you didn't really need to see it a second time because it looks clear from the opening jump on the restart into 3 and 4. Green running the bottom, held the lead, but right there, car steps out under braking, and he somewhat saves it. But at this point in time, then whips it around, then gets contact, barely the wall, and then bam, goes in the 42 of Christopher Bishop, who I believe was just predicting Green to be on the other end of the table on the racetrack. Take another vision at it. This is from the front bumper here, and this is the same instance that went down with Tyler Murray in the opening lap of the race. Cold tires do not play well at the entrance of the corner. You don't have a lot of downforce with these ARCA cars. And from Green, it looked innocent up until the 42 of Bishop came barreling in. Take a look here from Christopher Bishop. This is him behind the field, and he somewhat has almost the same problem here that Green does. And just when everybody's checking up right there, gets the hit from Murray and then has nowhere to go. Locked up the brakes, but the car was going way too fast for his own taste. And for Bishop, he goes into the race leader here on that 88 of 200. There's another look at where he stands in all of this. It was inside Tyler Murray. It's the exit of the corner where they check up. There's a slight tap. Car goes sideways and then goes slamming into the 48. Definitely without intention, just absolutely nothing for the 42 of Bishop to do. And now Bishop is on pit road and going to be on pit road here, I believe, much like AJ Green, for damage repair. Now these drivers do have a fast repair to their pockets, so of course if they do suffer significant damage, and if it's enough to really take them out of the race or really harm their race car's performance, they can go down pit road, check that fast repair box in the black box on the bottom right in the iRacing tab, and then be able to get a completely fresh car. The only thing is, wasting it before the halfway mark of the race may not be the play, as the 48 actually will stop on pit road. He'll get some 4 fresh tires and fuel, but he will not get a fast repair here on this lap. Christopher Bishop also going to hold on to that fast repair for now, so it's mostly minimal damage, especially near the rear and that spoiler there for the 2 cars. But fortunately, it's not a huge pack up and we don't get any more drivers involved. Everybody has done a solid job so far of getting around the incidents here from Bristol, although it's been rather sparse in the opening 89 laps. So that will turn the lead over to Stock Motorsports' Colin Forrester. That'll bring up the playoff drivers, Joe Sanchez, Craig Lounslager, up into 2nd and 3rd respectively. Sanchez will be on the inside here. Same deal for Craig Lounslager, who will be inside row 2, along with outside driver Charlie Hartcomb there in the playoffs. And he's going to be joining alongside just to be behind the race leader by the time we go back to green flag racing. For AJ Green and Christopher Bishop, they are back out on the racetrack. So the good news for them is that they will be able to continue from here on out. And for both of them, they're not playoff drivers, so they have no sort of implications on the championship. But of course, they do want to come away with a race victory, much like non-playoff driver Colin Forrester wants to do as the green flag comes out. 10 laps to go into the halfway mark of tonight's race, and it's Forrester getting the early jump over Joe Sanchez. And now here's Sanchez, bottom side, turn 3, but it gets real loose. He's able to keep it straight, almost about side-hipped. A side check the 99 of Forrester, but he's going to remain there on the bottom side for the lead. Forrester going to get the run out of the corner, and Sanchez is going to have to work one more time. It's a case of the old tires, or rather the cold tires on the restart. They just don't have the temperature in them, don't have the grip in them just yet. You have to run a couple of laps of them to get them up to speed. Same problem with Tyler Murray. Was a problem there with AJ Green, and almost could have set Joe Sanchez's race behind the 8-ball, but for the moment he's able to keep it straight. He's still in 2nd and holds behind race leader Colin Forrester, but that did give some of the time up as the caution flag will come out again, and this time it's playoff driver Michael Newbraw involved. Heavy damage to the front and rear end of the 56. Oh, there's more drivers involved as well. That's Cody Ivey. That's the 42 of Christopher Bishop, who was around on the apron. And we again go under yellow flag circumstances. We'll take a moment and see how this all began here. Not sure whether this started up near the front or started back here. Here are the 2 drivers involved in the incident. 56 on the bottom, 42 on the top. And it's actually right there where Bishop gets in a green off of hitting the outside wall, and bam, right into the safer barrier he goes against Cody Ivey, who just had nowhere to go. And it was the 42 who got into the wall, tried to get it off, got into AJ Green. Remember, the 42 and the 48 were involved in that most recent yellow. 42 gets loose, slams on the wall, then tags the 56. 56 goes back up the track, and Daytona winner Cody Ivey just has absolutely nowhere to go. He slams into the driver of the 56. Here's Ivey going into the corner. There's the 42 Starbucks machine, a Bishop. There he goes into the wall. And then watch the slam into Ivey. Oof. Just tough there for Ivey, who gets his car completely totaled and then takes another hit right there into the 42. And the pace car comes out. We go under caution once again. And that 81 machine of Ivey all by himself on pit road. A couple of drivers did hit pit road for some damage repairs. Some of them for tires, some of them for fuel. But for the leaders, for the most part, they do not come down for service. And for the lead, it got pretty hairy there when Joe Sanchez went to the inside, tried to make the move on Forrester. Forrester indeed does hold on to the commanding point of the field. There's Christopher Bishop coming out of pit road. He is going to keep his fast repair intact, so he's going to wait for later. As for Michael Newbraw, he is also going to do the same. Not going to take any fast repairs here on this trip to pit road. So I think it's maybe a smart call for those drivers to end up there and be able to use it for later if they end up in a worse situation and they end up in a tough spot. They could put him behind the back foot for the rest of this race. So Forrester will continue to lead and remain under the yellow flag once again. I believe this is our 4th yellow of the evening. We'll be quick to get that back. We'll go for another restart here on what should be lap 100 of 220. So indeed we'll be halfway through the race when we go back to racing. And we'll see if we can try and cap off the final laps of this race under green flag circumstances and whether we can try and get a clear winner. Last time we visited Bristol, it took a green-white checkered to get ourselves a winner in Brian M. Smith. So we'll see exactly what happens. I believe we are getting the 1 green signal from the iRacing official pace car. So indeed, the driver of the 99, Colin Forrester, will bring us back to competition. And it will be Joe Sanchez all the way on the inside. 13 of Lauenslager. On the inside of row 2, it'll be Charlie Harcum there on the outside of that second row. Then you'll find the drivers of the 88, Brendan Banks, Lawson Peel, back to row number 3 and P6. Good to see the rebound from Lawson Peel in the 12 after being involved in that earlier incident here tonight. After contact with the 13, pace car is down off turn 4. It's Colin Forrester back to the green flag. It's a clean route ahead of Joe Sanchez. We'll see if Sanchez is able to get the best back into turn 3 with the colder tires. But now that they've got him up to speed, it could be better as the caution comes out once again. I believe we may have had either a semi-spin or some sort of spin on the racetrack. May have been that 42 of Christopher Bishop, who currently rides the apron here on lap 101. So we'll take a look at the replay. Indeed, it was the 42 of Christopher Bishop, and this is coming out of pit road. So this is a peculiar situation. Field goes green. Comes out of pit road here, tries to go up through the revs, go on that transition. He's trying to reach for that pit exit cone. Oh, and extra damage there as he goes sliding into the wall. He goes for a quick spin. There's the field up to speed. They start to slow down. That 42 Starbucks machine has not been on the right foot since the opening incident there with AJ Green. And just gets caught up here on this transition. That's a tough thing here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. While coming back onto the track and trying to merge back safely, there is sort of a small banking change in between the apron, what's the last part of the apron before the racetrack, and the smaller parts, the deeper parts of the apron, like here. You see him jump onto this slight banking right there, that darker shade patch, then it merges right about there. It gets really tough to decide where's the banking and where isn't the banking. And then by the time you get onto the track, you're trying to carry as much speed as possible, and unfortunately for Bishop, he catches the worst part of that transition and goes around for a spin. And of course, every caution here at Bristol Motor Speedway is for any incident on the track, including the apron. So if you go spinning down there on the apron, chances are caution will wave no matter what. And that is opposite of many of the tracks we do visit on the schedule overall here in the 4-wide racing series, just because most of the time iRacing won't dictate a yellow flag if a car goes spinning underneath the racing surface. So for example, if let's say we're at Texas Motor Speedway next week, if somebody goes spinning on the back straightaway below that white line where the racing surface is, most likely a caution will not be called. But if it is on the racing surface, then a caution will be determined by iRacing. But here at Bristol, just because it's so short and the apron is very close to the racing surface, it is not that much space between that apron and the actual racing track. So any spins that happen at that point of the venue could definitely find its way back onto the surface, get more cars involved, and it's just too close to call. So iRacing does deem it a yellow flag, as Colin Forrester will continue to lead this race. As we're halfway through the event, though, let's take a look at your race summary, which is always provided to us by Supermix. Colin Forrester for Stock Motorsports is your current race leader. Joe Sanchez is the first playoff driver in the running order, just behind in second. We've completed 103 laps of the 200 scheduled for tonight. We have had a total of 97 laps now remaining, so we are under the 100 to go threshold. We've only had 2 lead changes here tonight. We've had a total of 5 cautions. This is being our most recent with Christopher Bishop for a total of 23. Now I believe 24 laps on the board. There it is. So we've had a total of 5 yellows. Hopefully we can keep it clean for the rest of the event. But so far, that is your race summary, as always provided to us by Supermix. So out of the 2 lead changes, it's been between the 2 Stock Motorsports teammates. AJ Green at the first half of the race after taking it away from Brandon Banks, your pole sitter. And then ever since AJ Green's incident that put him behind the top 10, Colin Forster, his teammate, has picked up the pieces. He's been able to command the field ever since then. Question is, does Joe Sanchez have a route to get around him? Does any other playoff driver have something to say? Off of turn 4, pace car will be down. And yet again, it's another solid jump out of the gates for the 99 of Forrester. This time Sanchez, though, a lot closer as he runs the middle lane in 1 and 2, but a side-by-side action behind for 4th. That's Launslugger trying to defend the likes of Brandon T. Banks. But Colin Forrester doing a nice job holding up the outside. He defends the lead for the moment. And a car around. I believe I saw one on the likes of Colin Forster's rear end, and there it is. 56 of Michael Newbraw collected. That's Jason Hastings near the top right of your screen. Eric Schaefer slow on the racetrack to avoid it all. There he is, that 22 machine. Good to see him back on the track after some connection issues earlier on tonight. But it's another damaged car, this time the 56 of Newbraw gets involved in an incident. Take a look at the replay as Newbraw was going into the corner. Remember, he still does have that damage from his recent crash. Didn't deem it was enough damage to constitute a fast repair on pit road. But actually, no, there was a big incident there. The 22 just got packed from behind by Jason Hastings. It all started, though, with the 48 of AJ Green, who looks to be the first one in trouble here, just behind Tyler Murray. Take a look on board. Well, it looks like he got hit by the 97 of Ken MacArthur, fellow playoff driver, and they just go sailing for the inside wall to get away from the incident. Eric Schaefer on the brakes. It was Jason Hastings that got into the rear end. Here's another look as the 48 was trying to work on Tyler Murray, but MacArthur just gets the betterment of the middle corner speed. He gets into the 48, slams the wall. Tony Kibbett gets a piece, and that 22 goes for a wild ride. Take a look here from the 22. This is not pretty. And those are multiple playoff drivers involved. Those are 3 playoff drivers that get caught up in this one. Here's a look from the 22 of Eric Schaefer. He was 18 laps down at the time of this behind Tony Kibbett, slowing down, and then just gets packed right there by the 49. The 56 also involved in that trio. Those are multiple playoff drivers that get caught up in it. The 56 of Newbraw going into tonight's race, 10th in the playoff standings, 5 points out of the cut line. Eric Schaefer 2 points below the cut line in 7th. Tony Kibbett was 8th, 5 points behind the cut line, much like Michael Newbraw was. So it is multiple cars that get caught up in this one for the incident that brings us under our 6th caution of the evening. And for the likes of the drivers involved, they do have a lot of damage, but many of them not electing to take that fast repair. Christopher Bishop actually going to do so. Ken MacArthur going to do so to follow, but he's done so earlier. That's why you see the scratch on the right side. Took his fast repair a little bit earlier on in tonight's race, and he is a part of only just a handful, less than 5 drivers in tonight's race to reach for the fast repair tonight. So that does show you just how harmless, or actually just how small the incidents have been. They haven't really damaged the cars all too much. I think that was arguably the biggest crash here in tonight's race by far, as we just crest over the halfway mark of tonight's race, and we continue to do so with Colin Forrester in the race lead. Well, if you've been paying attention to the bottom ticker on the bottom screen, you'll recognize that we have a graphic there that says join the conversation using hashtag AskKBueno. Well, that is not by mistake. If you're in the chat and want to join us in the booth for the conversation, you can put hashtag AskKBueno, put any question you'd like. We'll be sure to answer it just as quickly as we can and to the best of our abilities. That is hashtag AskKBueno for anything you want to know. Well, if you've missed the first 111 laps of this race, you want to know what is going on, Colin Forster is your race leader, followed now by Charlie Harcum, who worked to the inside of row number 1. Sanchez had fallen back off of a trip down to the pit lane on that recent yellow, but nonetheless, Colin Forster gets another solid jump. The Stock Motorsports machine out by a hair. There's Charlie Harcum now inside Lawson Peel. Peel gonna get his way into the top 3. A nice move to the outside, and all of a sudden it's a brigade on that top side lane to get around the playoff driver at Harcum. And now here's Peel inside. Colin Forrester gonna dive it deep into the corner. He's not gonna get it that time out of turn 3 and 4. And now he's going to fall into the clutches. There's Brandon Banks. Almost got into him from the high side. It's 2 by 2. Only 2 rows deep here as Harcum just continues to fend himself down low. Just cannot defend that huge one on the outside lane. Now here comes Benson. There's Sanchez on the top side as well. And it's a large group of cars now trying to ambush that 46. He stays down low, stays himself not clear of that top groove. Now there's Sanchez to fight for position here. This is to get into the top 5. Remember, Sanchez pitted not too long ago. He pitted 7 laps ago off of the recent yellow, so he does have the freshest tires in the field. He's really starting to make them work. He goes outside here of the 46 of Harcum, and he stays. He's now in the top 5 once again. Right there on the cusp as the 55 stays up top, and Harcum just does a solid job on the bottom side to keep himself content. He's just going to start to really glare over him as quickly as possible once Murray, once Launflarner, once a bunch of other drivers start to get there on the reins on that outside lane. Now Sanchez will most likely be able to clear here through the exit of turns 2, going into turn 3. And Harcum still trying to play the defense all the way at the low side, as Colin Forrester catches about 80 laps to go from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. He's commanded this race ever since his teammate AJ Green got into a spin, but it's been definitely with the challenge. Joe Sanchez was the first challenger before he went down pit road. Now it's Lawson Peel, now potentially Brandon Banks. There's your pole sitter coming back through the field. Gonna lose out here in the battle versus Peel. Most likely could lose to Benson as well if he does not play this right. Peel got to bend to the outside wall, and Banks almost tried to clear, almost contact between the top 3, but Banks still keeping the nose in. He's got the nose out front for second. Much like Harcum's situation there in the top 5, Banks is now stuck down low with absolutely no way to clear. He cannot get by for the moment. That the rookie, the 12 of Lawson Peel, he's got the nose out front for a moment, but as soon as they come out of the banking, that 12 machine just gets the huge run. And now follows other playoff driver Kyle Benson. Bit of a pinch there from the 88. He's going to be able to keep that car collected, but he's on the backside, just like Harcum was. Middle of the corner, no speed. Now going to be able to clear for the most part. Harcum and Murray going to lay back. They'll give the 88 the space in the top 5. That could have been disastrous there for the playoff driver who does not want to lose any more points. And Banks goes into this race only 5 points below that cut line. So if he can gain as many points as possible, not lose them, definitely play his chance as well at continuing some of the momentum into Texas coming into the next week. Here's on board with Kyle Benson, the multi-time winner this year. Started in third. That's where he sits right now, currently in the top 3. Just trying to chase down the likes of Lawson Field and Colin Forrester. And one thing we kind of haven't noticed throughout this entire race is just how the non-playoff drivers have been this much of a spoiler. Usually we expect a lot of the playoff drivers around this time of season to really just strap in, get themselves collected, and dominate most of these races, win most of these races. But instead, we're seeing a lot of the non-playoff competitors put their hat in the ring and say, hey, we're still competitive, we're still going to go out for wins, even though we're not running for a championship. Colin Forrester has been one of the strongest drivers all season long. He was not able to lock himself into the playoffs this campaign. Was able to do so on the Cup side, but not on the ARCA side. And so he's running for wins. Lawson Peel locked himself into the playoffs in the Cup Series not too long ago with a win at Richmond. But he is also not a playoff driver in the ARCA side of things. AJ Green is not a playoff driver in the ARCA side of things. So it's a lot of non-playoff spoilers here that have kept speed here tonight from Bristol. And they have really been able to hold off a lot of the playoff favorites, much like Benson and Sanchez, who again, as I mentioned earlier tonight, go into this race as the drivers with the most wins all time in this season by a driver. They each share 3 wins apiece on the campaign. And they currently just try to pack themselves just within the top 2 in Peel and Forrester. So it's led to somewhat of a short pack. Top 5 have sort of run away for the most part. Here's a gyro cam from the 46 of Charlie Harcum. There's a bit of the distance that you can tell just between Harcum and Banks at the total of 0.6 of a second. So the top 5 really starting to run away here. That second pack starting to really form up, starting with the 46 of Harcum. And over the long run, the top 5 may be in position to keep themselves there for the rest of this race. And again, we had a very long run to start after our first yellow, which lasted very far into the race until we had a caution around lap 80, I believe lap 85 to 88. And then ever since then, we've had a couple of quick flurry cautions. But this may be the opportunity to get our second longest, if not our longest run of the night under green flag circumstances. Forrester will come across the line. This is way under 70 laps to go, now coming to 65 laps remaining in tonight's race. And telemetry does tell us if we stay green, we'll go another 16 minutes, 15 minutes plus. We can call ourselves done here from Bristol Motor Speedway on what is scheduled to be a full 200-lap affair. Here's a small battle between playoff competitors Kyle Benson and Joe Sanchez. Not too much to write about for the moment, as Sanchez has been not able to dial up either the inside or the outside on Benson. He's been close enough to make something happen. This has not built up the momentum to really get there, and Sanchez potentially looking here underneath Benson, going to clear back as Benson gets the run off the corner. Sanchez will hold back for another lap and prepare for what's going to be potentially a move near the end of this race. And a lot of drivers have different preferences here from the Bristol Motor Speedway. Of course, we've mentioned the different lines. Drivers using the line all the way at the top of the racetrack, drifting it up and then going all the way down. They want to use the diamond line. Some drivers usually just want to stay up at the top side of the racetrack and not cut down low. Drivers like Joe Sanchez cut down a little bit earlier. Drivers like Forrester cut down a little bit later. There's a lot of preferences that you can have here from the Bristol Motor Speedway. We're seeing the effect of it, especially with the leaders, the difference in lines, but sort of the similarities in how much they keep their momentum. Sanchez, although he does run the middle earlier than a lot of the other drivers do off the exit of the banking, he does keep himself in the top 5, so it's all definitely for a good cause. It's for a good reason here if you're Sanchez as the playoff driver. But that top 5 have run away, and now Charlie Harcum looks to reel them back in as Forrester will look across some lap traffic potentially here. That's Cody Ivey up at the front near them. He's about 56 laps down, and he gets into the 97, and Forrester, the race leader, gets turned around. Caution is out. Peel gets turned as well. What has happened here in the midst of lap traffic? Colin Forrester, your leader, gets turned as they were catching up on a gaggle of lap cars that got together at the same time. They caught up to him. And for Forrester, that is significant damage on his Chevrolet Impala. Sort of similar damage to Michael Newbraw in this race. And out of nowhere, we have yet again another caution coming up on 50 laps remaining here tonight from Bristol. Here's the look from Forrester. Top two at the front. Those lap cars get together. Forrester checks up. Peel does not expect it. And all of a sudden, causes some mayhem, especially at the front of the field. There's another look from the rear end. The slight tag. Benson, unfortunately, gets damaged. That's a playoff driver once again that gets in some sort of trouble here tonight. Oh, and this is on just from the start. 81 and 97 are battling for, not for position, they're just battling for placement on track, not even for running order position, because Ivy's 57 laps down. MacArthur is only 3 laps down on track, so they're both side by side. They both get together. And then the 99 anticipates a big crash, hops on the brakes, but Peel and the others just do not catch the drift and end up on the near side of this collision course. And Forrester getting the worst of it. Lawson Peel got turned near the end of that sequence. He got turned, I believe, by Ivy, was coming back down the racetrack. And there is Forrester. No faster pair on his car. He's going to come out of pit road in third. And this time it's going to be playoff driver Joe Sanchez, who takes the race lead. Our third lead change tonight. After the chaos near the front of the field, Kyle Benson gets a faster pair, although he drops back to 9th. That's the lowest he's been all race long. And this has really shaken up the picture in the playoffs, as Sanchez will hold the lead. Banks behind him, playoff driver, will hold for second. And this is going to change everything. Just coming up to 50 laps to go here in tonight's affair from the Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll take one short break, but you won't miss a thing here on the KBueno Racing Network. Joe Sanchez leads a very cautious crowd after that caution on lap 148 of 200, nearing the end of the first playoff race for the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Back live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Caution is waved once again after the restart on lap 150 of 200, and we believe the victim in all of this is the 22 of Eric Schaefer. Was slow on the racetrack by the time we got the yellow flag, and I believe he is indeed the cause of this caution. Take a moment to look exactly what happened here on the replay. And for the 22, this is just behind fellow playoff runner Michael Newbraw running the top side. I believe his car just got all out of shape. And right there, car steps out all by itself in the exit of what looks to be 1 and 2 on the racetrack. Same instance as Murray earlier. Same instance as AJ Green earlier. Just cold tires. And that car does not want to respond in the middle of the corner, especially given the lack of downforce on the race car, as Schaefer will rebound. He'll work himself back to the track, so he'll have some flat-spotted tires, but not significant damage to that Chevrolet Impala. He'll mostly be okay. He'll continue on in tonight's race, albeit currently 25 laps down in 16th. So Joe Sanchez took the lead off of that recent yellow involving leader Colin Forrester. Colin Forrester, who had that damage, he started back in 3rd on the last restart. He still with damage tonight is up to 4th. AJ Green, his teammate who was earlier in the lead tonight, has a fresh race car. He finally got his fast repair after holding it for so long. He's now into the top 5 for the first time since that incident. Kyle Benson did go down pit road from his crash, got a fast repair, so he's up to 7th. And mixes a lot of the playoff field together, and it brings some surprising faces up to the front. I mean, Joe Sanchez, definitely not surprising considering he's had a lot of short track pace. He's had a lot of old asphalt track pace. But Charlie Harcum, ever since his win at Rockingham, felt like the momentum has gone his way. And the B&H Racing rookie, 46 machine, has definitely put it on here tonight from Bristol. Has been in some sketchy situations, but he has been able to overcome many of the challenges tonight. And on this restart, which may be pivotal, coming back to 40 to go, in a prime position to potentially take this one away. If he gets it, it will be his 2nd win of the campaign, and it will immediately lock him into the championship 5. Again, as I mentioned earlier tonight, the drivers fighting for the title here in the 4Wide Racing ARCA Series in this season are adorning orange splitters and orange spoilers. So you see their 4Wide Racing playoffs on both Sanchez and Harcum. You'll see it on all the other drivers that are in the playoffs that we have mentioned here in this race. And if any of those drivers with those orange banners get a win here tonight, they're immediately locked into the finale at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and they will not have to worry for Texas, for Nashville, or for Talladega. And I can imagine a lot of drivers don't want to deal with Talladega in this opening round. They just want to get this round done as quickly as possible, and that could be the best situation if they're able to get a win. But off turn 4, coming to 40 laps to go, Joe Sanchez grabs the green flag from Bristol. It's another good start here from the 55. He'll be able to get a couple car length lead over the likes of Harcum and Forrester, but Forrester now dials up the outside. He's got the move here on the B&H Racing 46, and he could potentially make this case work for 2nd. They're losing time to the race leader, but Colin Forrester clears Harcum from P2. Now Harcum now under fire from the 88 of Banks. Now here's AJ Green. Kyle Benson trying to lurk to the inside. That was almost 3 wide at the stripe coming out of turn 4. But they're okay. Now Curtis Kelly's in the mix from the top 7. AJ Green trying to push his patience. Now he'll work to the bottom side of that 88. Not going to be guaranteed though that spot coming out of turn 4. He'll stay side by side with the Geico Chevrolet. The Happy Hanukkah car trying to get back to the front, get back to glory here from Bristol, where he pretty much led the first opening segment of this race. They simmer themselves down for 2nd on back, and that does keep Joe Sanchez up at the front of the field by now 1 full second over Forster. Gonna keep them in tow here. Everybody at this point single file. Harcum getting into the outside wall. He's sucked in it. Can't get back out. He's gonna try and merge back safely. That's a whole host of cars to get by him. So tough there for the rookie Harcum, who under 40 laps to go puts himself at jeopardy of being behind the cut line out of tonight. Banks is going to follow through to third. That pushes AJ Green up to fourth, and Kyle Benson back to the top 5. So Harcum gets pushed all the way back to as far as 10. He's trying to pick things back up in the midst of his group there. Just behind Lawson Peel, there's Tyler Murray for a potential pass here. That's a non-playoff driver to the outside lane. And it's gotten harder and harder for the 46 of Harcum to get back into speed. Now he finally clears that outside lane, can finally get himself back into shape. But he's lost way too many positions near the closing part of this race. And he could be at luck here as these guys continue to battle through. That is Curtis Kelly, who steps into the top 10. He's under fire from Lawson Peel. That's fellow playoff driver Craig Lownslager behind him in the 13. This is some of the tightest battling we've seen all night long here from Bristol. Now Kelly grabs the outside wall. Here comes Lownslager to fight for the bottom. Same deal for Murray. Charlie Harcum not going to clear. They were almost 3 wide for a moment. But Kelly going to hold strong on the 30 degrees of banking. Almost gets into the 8 machine in Tyler Murray. But they're going to stay clean. And for the 71 machine, he falls back to P8. Here's Benson. Looking for a spot into the top 3, top 5. Lurked to the inside of that 48 for a moment, but just could not quite get it done on the bottom side. Now 30 laps to go, approaches us from Bristol, and it is still single file, mostly between the field. Joe Sanchez still your leader by a healthy margin of 1 second flat over Colin Forrester. He has not looked back. The 3-time winner this season last went to victory lane at Michigan on September 28th. It's been a full 2 months since Sanchez has gone to victory. Had all that momentum in the middle portion of the season after his first win came at Iowa on August 3rd in the 3rd race of the campaign, then picked up a win at Darlington in round 7. Then, of course, a couple of weeks later, got to victory at Michigan and is in the potential spot to win his 4th race of the campaign from Bristol. Just needs 25 more laps to go. And for Sanchez, you got to wonder how patient he needs to be here in these final laps, because at any moment a caution could arise and you'll have to reset his whole game plan. And remember, last time we visited Bristol, we were set in a green-white checkered circumstance in the final laps with late race yellows. So, of course, could be in a play here from the short track. But it's remained green mostly ever since. And as you ride on board of the Lownslager, who tries to get around Lawson Peel, the look of the field appears to be mostly single file. That was AJ Green up ahead. Almost got the inside of his teammate in Forrester. Backed out of that move. He's going to stay in 3rd for the moment. And they'll try to keep themselves composed. Try to catch up to Sanchez. But Sanchez just continuously sets faster laps. That time extends the lead to 1.5 seconds over Forrester. A couple of hundredths faster the last lap by. He was a full 10th faster than Forrester and the gang. And so Sanchez is trying to push as much as he can near the end of this event to capture his 4th win and give himself the straight ticket to the Championship 5 if he can do so. When Sanchez was in contention near the end of the Cup Series for multiple victories, and the ARCA Series came into this season with a lot of vengeance, with a lot of hunger, got the first 3 wins, put himself in the playoff position, and now just 20 laps away from a 4th victory and a possibility to win a 4-wide ARCA Racing Championship as they continue to fight for 2nd. There's the battle for that 2nd spot between Forrester, AJ Green, and Kyle Benson. Now here comes Green to the inside of the 99. He's not going to find the route. Now here comes Benson to the outside. Green is going to give a slight block. Benson going to be able to get that position through, fill the gap in between that outside lane. And for Benson, he's up to 3rd. Smart move there to keep himself up top. Now all he has to do is work on this 99 and try to catch back up to your race leader, who's now 1.6 seconds ahead of Forrester. uphill battles through most of the field. Everybody has remained single file. As for Charlie Harcum, we talked about him falling through the top 10. He's moved his way to 8th, so he got by the likes of Tyler Murray, is ahead of the 7 of Tony Kibbett. That's another playoff driver he has to fend off for the rest of this race. Final 15 laps. That's Craig Lownslugger, playoff driver he needs to get by. Harcum is +2 on the cut line. He does not want to lose any more points. As Benson puts the bumper to the 99 of Forster. Caution is indeed gonna wave once again. And Benson got aggressive there, was on the rear bumper of Forster for many laps on end. Was tired with it, gave him the old bump and run. But Forster goes for a spin and the caution flag waves once again. This is gonna bunch up the field once more and bring Joe Sanchez back into the clutches of the rest of the field. Take a look here from Benson as he was riding the back bumper of the 99. We looked past him a couple of laps through, and he's been close, cutting through on the gap here between himself and Forster. Just could not find the space, either work to the inside or find space up top. But he ends up getting to him right there. Entrance of the corner, gets near the middle, sends Colin Forster around for a ride. This is going to hurt Forster deeply in track position. But Benson, who was just trying to get closer to competitor Joe Sanchez for the race win, ultimately gets into the stock motorsports machine and causes a caution with 12 laps remaining. There's another look going into the corner. Benson just approaching. He had the faster car, just could not get around that 99 up until here where they dive on the brakes. Gives him the tap, and the 99 goes for a complete stop at the top of the racetrack. Fortunately, I think nobody got into him. Actually, may have been some drama there with Tyler Murray and a couple others that they may have picked up damage trying to get around all of this. Here's Tyler Murray slowing down. Actually made some side-by-side contact there with Christopher Bishop, who almost went into the tire barriers there on the entrance of pit road. He's going to be okay, but the runoff pit road stands. It's a change in hand for the race lead. Lawson Peel comes out first. Former leader Sanchez moves back to third. It was a 9.3 second stop. Got to imagine 2 tires on that race car for Peel. And remember, this kind of call set him up for victory lane at Richmond in the Cup Series not too long ago. He's employing the same here with 10 laps remaining from Bristol. Kyle Benson somehow gets away from Joe Sanchez on that route from pit lane. Gets his car mostly fixed. And he now leads the playoff running order. Actually, because of that incident, he's going to get an end-of-line penalty. So Benson is going to lose all of the track position. Sanchez is going to now be in second. So that will harm Benson's route for a race victory with this many laps to go. And now we'll put non-playoff driver, rookie contender Lawson Peel up at the front, aiming to get his first ever 4-wide racing ARCA win and to get his second ever 4-wide racing overall victory. Whether it be in the Cup Series or the ARCA Series, he has yet to get to victory lane here. And he can now do it in the number 12 Budweiser Chevrolet. So this is how the field is going to look on a restart with just 9 laps remaining from Bristol. It's Peel, your leader, Sanchez in second, Brandon Banks, your pole sitter tonight from third, AJ Green will be back in fourth. And they're rounding out the top 5 is the rookie driver, Charlie Harcum, in the 46. Pace cars down for what might be the final time tonight. Peel edges out ahead as they come back for turn 1. It's not without a fight, though, for the lead. Sanchez tried to look underneath, but just could not quite find the space. Peel's going to get the wall. Around goes Tony Kibbett behind them. Will we get a caution? Answer is yes. And playoff driver Tony Kibbett is in peril with 7 laps to go. Unfortunate for the 7 of Kibbett, who has had a rough race all night long. was running around the top 10, top 15 when this happened. And you looked at it for a moment, went around, I believe, all by his lonesome there off of the restart. And again, cold tires. I mean, the victim of this, he was 6 laps old on his tires. That's Tyler Murray, who went by himself, I believe, near the apron, but he didn't cause a yellow. It was the 7 here that right there loses the race car, goes for a quick spin, tags into the 56, and then hard into the wall. Benson gets a piece of that. Was not expecting him to be a part of it. It's a tough ride here for Kvyat, right on board as he was working to the inside of Craig Lownslugger. Here's where the spin starts, and that's what it results in. It's been a rough night for Kvyat, who fortunately has yet to use his fast repair, so coming down pit road, Kvyat will be able to get a clean car, but his track position is just going to be too damaged to really recuperate here in the final laps as we come across to 5 laps to go, and we may end up in an organic green-white checkered circumstance. Kvyat's going to come down to the pit lane. No other drivers are going to join the 7's endeavor down for service. Everybody wants to keep their track position intact, and Ricky Lawson Peel, after a solid restart, is going to aim to hold on in the final laps of this Bristol race. Remember, this is the same sort of situation that happened the last time we visited this racetrack with this series. It was Brian Smith had to hold off the rest of the field to get his first 4-wide ARCA series victory in his very first attempt. We end up back full circle in the playoffs and the opening round with a different driver up front, but the same reward at hand, the race victory and a checkered flag here tonight. Ready for the drivers to go 1 extra lap, which means we will indeed get to an organic green-white checkered finish. So we'll have Lawson Peel as your race leader. He'll command us back to green. Joe Sanchez will be on the bottom side, most likely in second. AJ Green for Stock Motorsports, who led a good section of this race to start, is in third. Pole sitter tonight, Brandon Banks, fellow playoff driver, will be in fourth. Charlie Harcum will round up the top 5, and then it's a trio of playoff drivers behind him: Craig Lownslugger, Michael Newbraw, and Curtis Kelly. Back to 8th, Colin Forster in the 99 will be 9th, and rounding out the top 10 will be Kyle Benson, who lost all of that track position from the end of line penalty. So we'll get a 1 to green restart here. I believe we'll go green with exactly 2 laps remaining from Bristol. Indeed, the lights are out, so we will go back to green flag racing with only 2 laps left to complete here from Bristol. Lawson Peel put in this situation on 2 tires at Richmond. He's been in this place to clutch up before and get a win. Can he do so here at the fastest half mile with a charging Joe Sanchez trying to give himself a ticket to the Championship 5? We'll just have to see as the pace car makes its way down to pit road. It will be our final attempt to finish this race before green-white checker territory. Green flag is out. Lawson Peel gets a solid jump over Sanchez. Can Sanchez try to make the dive in the final corners? And Peel gets into the wall. Here comes Sanchez underneath for the race lead. Sanchez crosses the line for the white flag as Peel makes a crucial mistake, and the playoff driver for the SimLab Chevrolet final corners here from Bristol. Sanchez comes across to turn 4. Sanchez goes to the Championship 5, wins tonight from Bristol. Unbelievable finish as Peel struck the outside wall out of turn 2. Joe Sanchez gets his 4th race win of the season and will join the Championship 5 for the first time in his 4-wide racing career. Sanchez, your winner from the last great Coliseum. We were not expecting Peel to run into the wall, but for Sanchez, he becomes victorious. A charge on the bottom of the racetrack where nobody has ran perfect all night long. And Sanchez with a deserved victory here. He'll fight for the title in Atlanta in a couple of weeks' time to cap off 2021. Gets his ticket in spectacular fashion from Bristol. He continues his celebration. Lawson Peel ends up in second. AJ Green to cap off your top 3. Next playoff driver you'll find in that group is Brandon Banks in P4. Sanchez stops at the start-finish line. He knows just how much this win means to him. And he comes across victorious from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at your full unofficial results here tonight from the Bristol Motor Speedway. It's Joe Sanchez, 4th race win on the campaign. This will lock him indefinitely into the Championship 5 this season. Lawson Peel, strong effort, but got into the wall out of turn 2 to not get the win, but to get second out of all of this. AJ Green rebounds from early wrecks to finish 3rd. Brandon Banks, the next playoff driver in the running order, comes home in 4th after starting on pole tonight. Craig Lounslager racks up the top 5. Curtis Kelly ends up in P6. Charlie Harcum comes home in 7th. Michael Newbraw, playoff driver, will come home 8th after early troubles. Colin Forrester will finish in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 will be league owner in Tyler Murray. This is the rest of the field as stands. Tony Kibbett, rough night in this one, finishes 11th. Christopher Bishop, also rough night for him. He'll finish 12th. Kyle Benson, after the end-of-line penalty, turning Colin Forrester in the final laps, ends up 13th. Ken MacArthur will finish 14th. The first car 1 lap down or more. He's 2 laps down. It'll be 12 laps down for the 49 of Jason Hastings, who comes home in the top 15. Eric Schaefer, 24 laps down in 16th. Cody Ivey in the 81 machine does not repeat from Daytona. He comes home 113 laps down. And Pete Bruni in the 08, 18th, 201 laps down. Final driver in this field. He did not complete a lap, unfortunately, here from Bristol. But it's Sanchez, your race winner out of all of the chaos. And we'll have a chance to talk to your race winner as Sanchez walks away with his 4th ever 4-wide racing victory after what was a successful start to the season. His first 3 wins coming within the first 12 races. And he's able to get to victory lane and now finally able to get for a championship here in competition. We'll bring Joe Sanchez in from victory lane. And Joe, I don't know how you must have felt in the final laps of that race. You knew you had speed. You knew you dominated that race up until the last caution there with about 10 laps remaining. I mean, first of all, walk us through what you were feeling, but walk us through how it was to get around Lawson Peel and win this race.
I knew I had fresher tires than him. He took 2 tires on that last stop, so I knew if I could get a good restart and, keep to the bumper, that I can roll the bottom a lot better. But with that last green flag run we had before the green-white checker, I was like, what's the 3rd week in a row I'm going to be leading with less than 10 to go here and have a way to lose it here. But a pretty good race. Had some good green flag runs, and that's all we can ask for.
You come away victorious, and even before that, looked like you had a lot of speed and carried that as you were able to get as far as 1.5 seconds over what was second place Colin Forrester at that time of the race. But before this car, for this package, for this track combo, what seemed to be the keys to be the fast one here? Because it looked like everybody wanted to stay up top. Nobody really wanted to work the bottom. For you, what was the key to master this track, this combo specifically, and to gain all of the speed, even when you put a lot of laps on these Goodyear Eagles?
Backing up your corners. Basically, having, driving it in deep is going to destroy that right front. So I knew after that first 70-ish lap run we had, I had a little more wear than I wanted to, and I kind of knew that I was going to have to take it a little bit easier the last couple runs, but basically just being patient, not taking unnecessary risks out there. I mean, we're in the playoffs here, so I was hoping for just a top 5, but a win obviously to move me on is huge. So just being able to now kind of practice for the championship race at Atlanta. I think next week at Texas will be a great opportunity to try some things out. and it helps not having to go to Talladega in a win situation or play protective with the points. So getting this out of the way early is a huge help.
And that leads me right into my next question. With this win, your 4th win on the season so far, you are able to run for a championship, so you'll have to work for Atlanta. You're going to have a chance, most likely near the end of the year, to go for a title and to run amongst the other championship competitors who we don't know yet. But, I mean, for you, how are you going to try to play this out? Are you just going to go straight focus Atlanta, or like you said, just try to experiment as much as you can within the next couple of races?
Unfortunately, 2 of the next 3 tracks are kind of not going to, help out for Atlanta, but definitely next week is really going to be a key, for testing some stuff out. Both very abrasive tracks with the old Texas as well as Atlanta. So, just figuring out how hard to push the car, or what to do and what not to do, is going to be big for me going into Atlanta. But then it'll allow me at Talladega to possibly, kind of just play around, help my teammates out, try to get them into the championship battle as well, and not have to play, defense at Talladega, which is not a fun thing to do.
You get all the stressful lead with this win tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. But before we let you go to celebrate this win here tonight, Joe, is there anybody you just want to give a shout out to for making this all possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just like to shout out here tonight?
Shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast every week. You guys do a fantastic job. And Tyler for putting this league on. He does a great job with a pretty good group of people here each and every week. It's fun racing against the same people to learn their styles and their knacks and their ticks. But and the Drinking Bros guys, we have a lot of fun each and every week. So it's fun when you can pull a win out.
You're able to pull your 4th checkered flag of this season, and it comes here in spectacular fashion in the final laps. Joe, want to congratulate you here tonight from your win at the world's fastest half mile. Wishing you the best of luck for the rest of the playoffs, but most importantly, wishing you the best of luck for the championship race on December 29th. You'll have that ticket, that golden ticket to Atlanta Motor Speedway. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joe Sanchez, your race winner here tonight from Bristol after making the final pass with 2 laps to go, coming to the white flag. We'll step back to the driver who led the field going into the final restart, but unfortunately came up short. Lawson Peel in the 12 machine gets to 2nd here tonight from Bristol. We'll bring in Lawson Peel from pit road. And Lawson, it looked reminiscent of the Richmond strategy with 2 tires. You got out front, looked like you were going to hold on to it. Give us your perspective of your car behind the wheel in the final laps of the race.
Oh, yeah, I think it would have worked if I didn't hit the wall there. I mean, with that few laps to go, I'm not going to say it's a no-brainer, but I was pretty sure I was going to do that. It would have been my only chance to win, and I'm not in the playoffs. So, it's, you win, or if you finish between 2nd and last, that really doesn't matter. So, gave it a shot, and I had it there. I just hit the wall twice, but yeah, so kind of disappointed in myself about that, but congratulations to Joe. He's a good friend of mine, so glad to see him win it.
And of course, you mentioned those wall taps, and that wall tap was among many drivers here tonight running that high line. It looked like that high line, much like I mentioned to Joe Sanchez, was the most dominant line throughout this entire racetrack. So for you, what seemed to be the margin of error? Did it look like you have to push it a little bit? Did it seem very difficult to hold that top, especially in the midst of traffic? How was that for you behind the wheel, not only in the final laps, but over the course of the entire race?
Yeah, it was definitely a single groove. I mean, racetrack tonight. I mean, it's like the old Bristol, except instead of around the bottom, it's around the top. You can hold it up there, okay. It's not too difficult to hold it and just run in line on the top. But I mean, when you got a car to your right, you get so tight and just cannot get any kind of exit off the corner. So I mean, it's almost impossible to pass. I mean, I would, almost go as far as to say, if the guy on the top doesn't make a mistake, or if you don't pick him in behind a lap car, I mean, there's just no way you're passing down there. Yeah, I got the wall a couple of times, but it was on the straightaway each time. feel like everybody else was kind of getting it in the corner. I managed to stay out of it in the corner, but licked it on the straightaway 2 or 3 times. So, yeah, can't do that.
Well, nonetheless, it's a second place finish after what was a solid fight for the front of the field, especially in the final laps of the race. Lawson, before we let you go, is there anybody you just want to thank for making all of this possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just like to give the love and shout outs to?
Yeah, thanks to Four Wide and everybody for putting it on, and thanks to my team, Drinking Bros, and all my teammates over there. I have a lot of fun getting in here in the middle of the week and running some races and just having some fun. So I'll be back for the race tomorrow night, and we'll see how that goes. And yeah, enjoyed it.
Well, also want to thank you so much for taking time out of your night to talk with us here in the KBueno booth. Want to congratulate you on the second place finish here tonight from Bristol, but of course we'll wish you the best of luck in the future for tomorrow night's Cup race and next week's ARCA race at the Texas Motor Speedway.
No problem. I appreciate it.
Lawson Peel in the 12 machine comes home just short of the win, but still solid result after starting in 7th. It's a +5 bonus positively through the front of the field. We'll take a moment and talk now to the final driver in the top 3. That is Stock Motorsports' AJ Green in the 48 machine. And AJ, it was a roller coaster race, I'd say, much like Daytona's finish, but just over the span of the entire race for Bristol. You led the opening half of this race up until the first caution, or the second caution rather, that involved a couple of cars. How was that for you to try and bounce back after what was that incident there in the middle of the race when you spun around?
It was definitely tough because I got caught in a few more wrecks, which didn't help at all. I got punted by Ken, and then the 42 hit the wall and came down. But it was tough, definitely, because the outside was really the only way to go. The bottom was not working at all. Like, early race, that bottom was really good, and then rubber just started building up on the top, and the top became way better. I did get doored through the race and did get a meatball, so that didn't help the car, and a caution definitely saved me there. But I had to use the fast repair, like around like 130, which I had to play a little conservative.
Well, it looked like it was the opposite of conservative for you in the final laps. I know everybody was trying to go for the win and get around the leader and try to capture a win here from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. But in your position, much like Lawson Peel and much like your teammate Colin Forster tonight, you guys are not running for the playoffs, so you guys are not in the position to go for a championship. So for you, how does the perspective change between trying to get into the playoffs in the regular season versus now trying to just win races regardless of championship eligibility?
I mean, you definitely don't gotta worry about finishing well as a non-playoff driver. I mean, you definitely want to finish well, but if you wreck out of a race, it isn't gonna hurt you as bad as what the regular season was. But you also got to remember that there are playoff drivers driving. So if, you can't really cut people off or bump people, and you got to watch out who you really race hard, because it could come back to bite you in the Cup Series where it counts.
You mentioned the Cup Series. You're running for a championship there, so of course there's going to be a lot of pressure tomorrow night at the Darlington Raceway. But before we let you go here tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, is there anybody you just want to give a shout out to for making all of this possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody else you just want to mention tonight?
Shout out to Stonks Motorsports. Colin was doing well for most of the race and had bad luck there at the end. Shout out to parents, I think they're watching. Shout out to you for broadcasting, and Tyler for putting on the league.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time, AJ. Want to thank you so much for joining us. Want to congratulate you on the 3rd place finish here tonight from Bristol. And again, wishing you the best of luck, not only for next week's ARCA Affair at Texas, but your playoff run in the Cup Series that starts tomorrow night from Darlington.
Thank you.
AJ Green for Stock Motorsports completes the drivers in the top 3 here tonight from the last great Coliseum. And it'll be our time to step back up to the booth, which is very lonely here tonight. No Francisco Bacchial. We'll have him tomorrow for our coverage of the 4WD Racing Cup Series from the track Too Tough to Tame. But it was a wild one. It was a decent mix between long runs, a decent mix between cautions. There were a lot of drama between playoff drivers, non-playoff drivers, and it gets dramatic all the way through the final restart, where Lawson Pio grabbed the wall. Joe Sanchez gets by, and Joe Sanchez will indeed be a part of the Championship 5 that will run for the title in Atlanta in a couple of weeks' time. Again, we'll take a moment to look at the point standings. This was going into this race where Kyle Benson leads. It's all going to change coming in next week at the Texas Motor Speedway. Joe Sanchez will lead this group with that win locked in. It's going to be a battle between everybody else in points to see who can get over that Championship 5 cut line and be able to either point their way in or win their way in into the final races. Next week, we will go racing from the virtual Lone Star State, the Texas Motor Speedway. That'll be next week, December 7th, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We'll continue our route through the playoffs, which follows through to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Then we'll head over to the Talladega Super Speedway to decide the Championship 5. We'll go racing at the 1.5 miler in Hampton, Georgia, the Atlanta Motor Speedway on December 29th, 2021. to decide a 4-wide racing ARCA Series champion. But for now, one driver locked in, Joe Sanchez. Want to congratulate him on his win here tonight from Bristol. We'll have more coverage tomorrow night on Max Speed TV's YouTube channel at 9:10 p.m. Eastern for the start of the 4-wide racing Cup Series playoffs from the virtual Darlington Raceway. But on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer, for Francisco Bacall, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long, good night from Bristol. Congratulations to Joe Sanchez. We'll see you next week at the Texas Motor Speedway.